Hello and welcome back. F1 is back, baby. It's the Outside the Cockpit crew here to talk about the Turkish Grand Prix Pre-race show. I'm Sam Donzig, joined by Alex Baumgartner and Julian Quintero. How are you guys doing this weekend?
All great, man. Honestly, F1 is F1. I love watching every race week, and we've had an amazing series of races. Even in races that we don't really get to see amazing type of racing or anything like that, we've gotten to see some amazing results. We've gotten to see some wacky things. We've got to see some crazy things. And now we're headed into Turkey. Turkey put up an amazing race last year. Let's just hope they give us another one this week.
Yes, indeed. All right, let's dive right in with Friday practice.
Wow, I guess I don't have to explain how I feel. Listen, every week we're on this show, I go last, but Sam is like, "Alrighty then, let's get into the fucking race." Yeah, I'm happy. I get to watch this race. I only got to watch the end of the last one because I work, but we're off. So yeah, thanks, Sam.
Okay. Sorry. Alex has feelings too. Can't forget about Alex. Florida man, the boss man. So let's get right into Friday practice. Obviously, not Verstappen, but Hamilton went fastest in both FP1 and FP2. We also saw Charles Leclerc up there as well. So what are your reactions from seeing Friday's results in terms of qualifying and looking forward towards the race as well?
I don't care. Hamilton's got the grid penalty, so he's going to do what Mercedes and Red Bull have been doing all season from the back of the grid. First of all, it's a 10 grid penalty, 10 spot grid penalty.
Yeah, 10 place grid penalty.
So he's probably still going to end up close to a podium if he doesn't get one. So, yeah.
I mean, if he's on pole, barring anyone else in qualifying, like, for example, Carlos Sainz, to put as a major example, he's going to have an engine penalty that goes all the way to the end of the grid. So let's put it this way. If Lewis Hamilton, let's say he gets pole and Carlos Sainz finishes anywhere in the top 10, Lewis Hamilton will be starting 10th because he slides down to 11th, and then they add the additional thing for Carlos Sainz. I'm pretty sure it's just how it's been in past years. But there's one thing that I need to focus on, and a lot of people are kind of forgetting. This was a track Lewis Hamilton clinched his 7th World Championship last year. And for anyone who watched that race, it was an absolute Lewis Hamilton masterclass. He drove through the field, everything. He was just absolutely spectacular. So even with this grid penalty, I would not count out Hamilton for a race win this weekend. It's just shown that he has that insane pace. We've seen guys like Charles Leclerc really step up this weekend as well, but we've seen Ferrari do very, very well in one-lap pace or in the practice sessions. We need to start seeing if they can actually hold that through during the race. Anything can happen, honestly. Turkey is one of those tracks where it's like we've had one race from last year. It was a crazy sample size. It was a crazy race. And now we're coming to the end of regulations. Who knows how this year's going to go? Who knows how next year's going to go? But Istanbul Park has always thrown up some absolutely amazing races. So definitely going to have to see how qualifying turns out before we really get a feel of who's going to be dominating this weekend.
Yeah, go ahead.
1 second, Sam. It's also interesting to note, if you look at the qualifying simulation pace, Ferrari was ahead of McLaren, but Aston Martin was the second slowest in the qualifying simulation pace, only above Haas.
So, that is interesting. So, one note that I will make is one team that did struggle was Red Bull, and compared to Ferrari and Mercedes, they just didn't have the grip or the pace on Friday with Verstappen and Perez. And you look back to last year, they both obviously last year as well. When you look back at the track again, it's a very small sample size. It was very wet, but what was interesting is the grip actually compared to this year was very much different because it was super slippery, not even in the rain, but even in the dry situation. So they've made some altercations to make it a bit more grippier to try to allow for some more grip for the cars on track. But I think qualifying, once we watch qualifying, we'll definitely get a good key to who's going to win. But yeah, I wouldn't count out Lewis Hamilton to easily, I mean, not easily, but, come back from the grid and, have a close battle with Verstappen. But it all depends on where Verstappen lines up, where Leclerc is. But it's going to be a good race weekend for sure. Alrighty. Obviously, talking about grid place penalties and Carlos Sainz, well, reliability issues possibly for teams has been kind of like throughout the season. We've seen multiple teams or a couple teams take power units changes. Obviously, Carlos Sainz has replaced his 4th one for the season. Bottas, obviously, the only reason why they replaced his for a 2nd in a row was due to strategical reasons. But regardless, reliability for at least this season, do you think it's reliability or it's been mostly because of the crashes that have happened throughout the season? Would you start with you, Julian?
Honestly, who knows? F1's a very expensive sport. We've seen it time and time again. And we've seen these type of issues pop up for past years. We've seen it pop up last year. We saw it pop up the year before. I think we're just at that point of the season where a lot of the teams can't just have and stretch out their engine parts and the MGUKs and anything that they have in their car. They can't just stretch it out anymore. They're at that point where it's like we have to either break the seal now and take a penalty or risk not getting a result at all. And you've seen it a lot. For example, Mercedes has been able to break that seal recently. Bottas did it like in 2 consecutive weeks or something crazy. Like he was doing a madness in that aspect. We saw Verstappen have to go with it. We see Hamilton doing it this week. We've seen Paris do it. I feel like the teams that are more so competing this season are the ones that are really just not trying to risk it. They know they have a car that can potentially fight through the field, and they're just like, hey, we're going to put faith in our drivers. We feel like they can cut through the field, and it's turned out great. Verstappen fought to a second place finish despite starting at the back of the grid. So, anything can happen in that aspect. I don't really think it's reliability issues, but it's rather these teams that are in a title fight trying to make sure that if anything fails, it's something that's on track and on the drivers and racing incidents and everything, and not so much because an equipment member failed.
I have to agree with Julian, just because, like, look at the 2 top teams fighting for the drivers' championship and the constructors. They both took grid penalties around the same time, and now we're in the back end of the schedule, and it all comes down to how you predict your car to handle that specific track. And as we saw, Mercedes normally does really good on certain tracks, and that's why Red Bull, like for Sochi, Red Bull's like, all right, we'll take the grid penalty now. I don't think they expected Verstappen to get to P2, and obviously weather conditions aside, he probably wouldn't have gotten to P2 if it wasn't for that, but he still probably would have got a P3 or even close. So it's all tactical. Obviously, Ferrari's not competing in the constructors race. Their battle's closer with McLaren. So you said they had 4 different gearbox changes this season.
Yeah, it was his 4th power unit change for the season.
That's not tactical. There might be something going on there where they're just like, okay, we really need to change it now because something's messed up. But Mercedes and Red Bull, yeah, they're fighting. It's a close title fight. It's probably going to be the closest one we've had in a while. Obviously, as Julian said, Turkey was wrapped up last year. Lewis Hamilton won his 7th driver title. So it's nice to see how much more competitive it is. And, sometimes having a top driver in the back of the grid makes it a little more entertaining up at the top. Because as we saw in Italy, we had a front row lockout and a P1, P2 podium finish for McLaren. So yeah, it's interesting for the sport.
No, I definitely agree to your point as well, Alex, with where you have like a driver like Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, who's starting at the back of the grid and working his way up, cutting right through the field and making it competitive. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Getting past, because you actually get to see, overtakes, because a lot of times during race, like we do see obviously certain overtakes with the top drivers, but they don't show a lot of like the midfield battle. But when there's a driver like Lewis Hamilton fighting through the midfield, they'll show a lot more. So we do get to see that as well. And to the point as well, we've seen this in past years. If you look back, like I would say 2018, like Renault was one of the teams that really struggled in like 2019 in terms of their reliability for their car. Obviously, that's now changed. Now they're Alpine. But regardless, it's somewhat reliability and somewhat tactical in terms of their changes. And they're just playing it safe because, like Julian said as well, the last thing you want is to have to retire your car because of a reliability issue instead of just taking, playing it safe and taking the grid place penalty and losing on some points for one weekend. Alrighty, a little go on before we continue. Oh yeah, obviously this weekend, Red Bull is rocking a very special white livery in honor for the Japanese Grand Prix that was set to be this weekend. So what are your thoughts? Let's start with you, actually, Alex. What are your thoughts on this livery, as well as the suits as well?
Ooh, baby. I'm telling you. Oh, the Japanese scripture, the writing on the side, the white throwing it back to the OG Honda. Damn, I wanted to see Yuki in this. It was the little flag at the bottom when you had the Dutch flag and the Mexican flag. Ooh, that's all I have to say. That car is hot. The uniform's hot. Yes.
Yes. Okay. We've got Alex's opinion on that. What about you, Jillian?
I'm a bit more on the I like it, but it's not as impressive, I feel. And the main reason why I do feel that way is because if that's one thing that this car has proven to me, and I think has proven to a lot of F1 cars or a lot of F1 fans, is the fact that Red Bull's color scheme is so consistent that we don't notice the small detail changes that they do until they've actually just changed the color entirely of their base scheme. That Red Bull car, even when it was that dark navy blue, very beautiful car. It's always been, but we don't really notice that until they have these type of drastic color changes as we saw this weekend. So that's why I'm not that impressed, because I looked at it, I'm like, if you look at how the logo sponsorships are everything, you look at some of the fonts and everything, most of it is very, very similar to the car that they already have. They just changed the base color to white. It looks very nice.
They pretty much what they did is they
really
took
nice, but it's just the same car and it's white. So I feel like creativity wise, it wasn't as drastic of a difference as, let's say, the Gulf scheme that we saw with McLaren. However, it's still a very, very nice scheme. It's one that I'm going to be excited to see on track. And it's definitely going to be interesting because we've seen usually the team that ends up rocking these one-off liveries, especially recently, luck has not exactly been on their side. So Red Bull better hope that they're the team that breaks the duck, because if not, they're going to be in for one heck of a weekend.
It's gonna be like a Germany 2019 situation
for
all over again.
Sake, and for the championship's sake, they better hope it's not, because
exactly,
would be devastating.
But like to your point as well, all they pretty much did is they took the photo, like the livery, took it into like Microsoft Paint or something, and they just changed like the base color to white and like the other color to like red, and that's pretty much all they did.
Simplicity is key.
That's what I'm saying. Simplicity is key. Like, I love it, but like I've seen some people on Twitter and they're like, "Oh my god, the mastermind of this shit." I'm like, dog.
They reversed the colors. They threw the Japanese writing on the side. The red pops a little bit more when it's white on red with the yellow. Like, it works. It's a very beautiful car. It is.
It is. I personally, if you really wanted to embrace the Japanese flag and Japanese culture and everything, I would have changed the Red Bull logo to be entirely red and just use different shades of red on the car. I think that would have popped more, especially on the white background.
Okay, you hear this, Red Bull? You can hire Julian as your next livery designer. I mean, like, it's pretty much the same every year. It's like there's no difference. So I think Max Verstappen made a comment about it as well. He was saying like it's good to see like an actual difference in the car, because it's usually not like it's.
For me, that's where I disagree, honestly, because I feel like, especially nowadays as modern fans, we see a lot of fans that are like, why aren't we getting a different livery every year and back to back? But the one thing I like about what Mercedes has done, and added to that the things that we've seen done with Red Bull. And we look at the Ferraris in the past, we look at the Williams cars in the past. The one thing is they kept the same scheme year after year after year. In a sense, that car becomes iconic. It becomes synonymous to a time area for a team. Like, for example, Williams in the early 2000s, it's one of my favorite cars of all time. It was literally the same damn car for 4 years. All they did was change some things here and there, whether it be sponsorship deals or anything like that, but the same design for like 4 or 5 years in a row, and it's an absolute beauty of a car. You think of Williams, you think of the Cannon car, absolute iconic. They had that car for almost a decade.
Yeah,
like, it's insane if you think about it. This with the Marlboro McLaren cars, the silver cars, the West cars, all those things for McLaren. Like, the whole point of it is, and I feel like that's one thing we've lost, especially as modern fans. We want to see so many more changes, whether it be merch changes or creativity for some of these designs and everything. But if we're going to keep pursuing that, we're not going to let any of these like designs, once they decide to change at some point, become iconic. And I feel like Red Bull in, let's say, 2-3 years, maybe with the new rule change, they'll bring an entirely new appearance to their livery scheme and everything, and that will be nice, obviously, because it's a new era. But then, like, I would appreciate what they've done during this era, because you're thinking, it's like, oh yeah, Red Bull, steady, that's the car, it. And
I agree with Julian. Just think about it. Like, my biggest memories of Red Bull is watching Vettel win 4 straight titles in that specific car. And if they change it every year, like, say 1 year, like, all right, let's go yellow with the blue and red, and then red with the like, Ferrari's not making their car black.
Yeah,
it's Ferrari.
Yeah,
Ferrari's red. Yeah, they'll do. I know last year, the year before, they did the
shade of red a bit and everything.
Yeah,
but they won't make a drastic change, because
or
red
like
is their brand.
What was it, Monza? Exactly. For Monza, they did a special car a couple years ago or something.
Yeah, it was the 1,000th
Ferrari race
for them. They had like a special darker red. But to your point, I would definitely agree with both of you, because when you if I give you like 2 colors or like a color scheme, you think of like the if you like red and white, you think like, okay, like that 1988 McLaren MP4, like that championship winning car, and that's like one of the most beautiful cars. Or you think of like the 90s Williams, like you mentioned as well, the Cannon car, like that, the blue and yellow. So definitely, I feel it's good to have that mark as an iconic car and having that livery the same. But I think as well, it is a good change. The white really pops. I do like it. I wouldn't mind having like a little like scale version of it, just as like a memory. But I definitely think like it's good to have in terms of the livery, to see like a little bit of a difference there. Let's move on. Obviously, some new additions to the calendar. Qatar has been added to the 2022 calendar. with some mixed results, obviously, because of reason why. But like one of the biggest things that they're talking about is will it be ready in about 60 days? Because we've seen photos and there is still a lot to work. There's still a lot of work to be done. So what are your thoughts on Qatar being added to
let me go first. Can I keep it short and sweet?
Yeah.
No comment.
No comment. Okay.
Because the same thing with the World Cup shouldn't be in Qatar. That's it.
Yeah.
Obviously that's the main point when it comes down to it. I don't really want to be supporting Qatar, but if we're going to be, I want to look at this more so on like quality of racing aspect. That Qatar track looks like it's going to be one of the worst tracks that we're going to have on the schedule. Let me put it that way. And the main reason why I think that's if you look at every single corner is a corner you can basically take flat out. It's not really anything major. There's not a lot of heavy braking zones. And they only really have one straightaway, which is the main straight, and it isn't even one that's very long. This track's going to be very interesting. If F1's able to succeed on this track, props to them and everything, but the track itself is made almost solely for MotoGP because that's the type of track that they thrive at and that they need to have those entertaining races, but it's not one where you're going to see cars really flourish. So apart from the fact that it's in Qatar, apart from the fact that it's not ready, it's just a bad track if you look at the layout. Like tracks, for example, like the one that we're going to be seeing in Miami or the one in Saudi Arabia, you can see some potential nice points in those tracks. So you'll be like, okay, maybe a large portion of it isn't nice, but at least we have this one corner. I look at Qatar, I really don't feel like there's a single redeeming quality on that track. And F1's either A, going to make us sit through 10 years of the most boring race, and I think that's even worse than Abu Dhabi, or we're going to, they're going to have to restructure the track, or they're going to end up cutting it from the calendar. We'll have to see how that ends up turning out, but I really am not a fan of this move solely because of the fact that it is money-based. In the end, F1's a business. They're going wherever the money is, and it's an absolute shame because I would love to see them potentially go back to Malaysia or India because those are two insane tracks, but I know that getting to those circuits and everything is a really large issue when it comes to fans in the area.
Now, to be fair as well, the 10-year deal that's set to be started in 2023 is not for the LaSalle International Circuit. It's just a deal to have a Qatar F1 Grand Prix there. So obviously for this year alone, they're racing at this circuit at the LaSalle. But for future years, it could be at a different circuit. And again,
in future years, they're going to be racing. All these World Cup stadiums are never going to use it again. You can just put a track around it. Do that 10 times.
Yeah, you probably could. In terms of the other comment as well.
Like to put it that way. It's not because like it's not like they probably could. No, they probably will.
That's what it's gonna be.
Like, there's no reason to have all those stadiums if no one's using them.
No, exactly. But other than that, I mean, like, who knows? Someone in terms of the track for this year and the race this year, I think someone commented that the track looks like Bahrain got sneezed and then it got shortened up. But let's move on to qualifying predictions as we move on. What are your thoughts? Obviously, after seeing practice, who do you think will take pole position? Now, obviously, Lewis Hamilton does have the 10-place grid penalty as well. To just keep that in mind. But let's start with you, Julian.
To put it sweet, whoever comes in second, because Lewis Hamilton's getting on pole and them getting that 10-place grid penalty. That's just how I see it. We might see a Charles Leclerc have another masterclass come in. You might see a Max Verstappen finally pick up the pace. Maybe they've been sandbagging in practice to not show what they have this weekend. Maybe you see Bottas say, hey, F you, Mercedes, and just like go off on his own. Who knows? But if you're asking me based off what we've seen so far this weekend on practice session, it's whoever comes second, which is just a throw-up because Hamilton's just been absolutely dominant so far at Istanbul this weekend, and it's a shame that he has the grid penalty, obviously, for him, but it should provide some really nice racing if he's going to have to slice through the field.
Yes, indeed.
It's going to be Hamilton on pole, and then he's going to move back to P10. It's going to be Verstappen. I have Bottas getting third, and then Leclerc fourth.
Okay, I'm going to say, actually, I've got Hamilton on pole, so then he'll move back 10, and I actually have Leclerc on pole, Bottas second, and Verstappen technically then third, and then I'll say Perez fourth would be kind of like my top five. And then maybe Sainz will say, or no, Sainz not on the back of the grid, but I would say, I'm trying to think of who else would be up maybe the fifth. But yeah, that's kind of my qualifying predictions.
Esteban Ocon was flying in practice.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, he could be up there as well. We'll see. But I think Charles Leclerc will ultimately finish second, so he'll move into pole position as per scheduled already. So let's talk about race predictions. From that, then looking at qualifying, let's move on to our race predictions. Let's start with you, Alex.
I actually want you to go first, Sam. Since you've been throwing it off to us, I'll go last.
Okay, I'll go first. My race predictions, honestly, as much as I'm a Max Verstappen fan, I think Lewis Hamilton's going to take this. he did really well last year at Turkey. You look at past years as well. I mean, like I'm trying to before 2020, he's had some success there as well. He's picked up 2 wins. So I would say Lewis Hamilton's going to win from 10th place. Verstappen's going to come home 2nd place, and Charles Leclerc is going to finish on the podium in 3rd. So that's my take.
All right. Well, if you're going to have to ask me who's going to win this, obviously I think it's going to be a fun one. But I think we're going to see a first-time winner in Turkey. Not first-time winner like as in their career, just a first-time winner this season.
Okay.
That for me just narrows it down to 3 drivers so far. Actually, no, it narrows it down to 4 because we haven't seen Valtteri Bottas win a race this year, have we?
I don't think I'm trying to think if he's won a race. I think he's been on the podium multiple times. He's been close, but has not yet.
He hasn't won a race.
He has not won a race yet. So
well, then I'm going to put these 4 drivers are the ones to watch for the win because as much as I feel like Hamilton probably will, I want to put these 4 names out there because I really feel like if there's anyone that has in a shot at a track like Istanbul, it's going to be one of these 4 guys. It's going to be Valtteri Bottas getting his first win this season, which would be very nice for him, a nice confidence boost and everything. It might really help Mercedes out when it comes to the constructors. But either one of the Ferrari boys, you see Leclerc finally get back on form, or maybe Carlos Sainz, despite having an amazing season, very underrated. Maybe see him finally take that first F1 win, get the monkey off his back. Who knows? But I feel like it'll be an option up there. And lastly, the man who robbed himself last time out, Lando Norris, could definitely be a nice shout here at Istanbul Park. He's been very, very fast all season. Who knows? Maybe this time he'll finally have the luck to be able to hold on to it, but who knows? Who knows how it's going to turn out? I still feel like it's going to end up being a probable Hamilton versus Verstappen or whatever, like how it's been for most of this season. But just to throw in some spices, those are the 4 guys that I feel like could really be in for a shot to win it this weekend.
I'm going to go ahead and say Leclerc. Ferrari's been extremely fast so far. Sainz does have that grid penalty, and with Hamilton in front of him, I don't think Sainz is going to overtake Hamilton to win unless there's another Pirelli tire blow up or like some rain puts someone off the track. But I'm going to go with Leclerc. I think I want to see Valtteri do good too, but I have a feeling Leclerc and Verstappen are going to get P1, P2 if Hamilton isn't able to come back.
Okay. Well, there you heard, folks, our race predictions, and pretty much sums up our pre-race show for the Turkish Grand Prix. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out all the Intermission Sports content at theintermissionsports.com. My name's Sam Donzig, and we will see you on Sunday for the post-race show.